Hey Charlie. Yeah, you, Cheap Charlie. Just because you have an app on your phone doesn't make you a thermographer. And just because you have cheap tools doesn't make you a good inspector. No! This video brought by my friend Brian Hannigan and the guys at InspectionReferral.com. Check out this card they sent me. Twins, really? He's so much taller than I am. Before I get too far, I do have a limited number of shirts, and anybody that likes this video and subscribes to the YouTube channel will get a free shirt, but I don't have very many of them. If you're an inspector, they're pretty cool. If you're not an inspector, well then don't like and subscribe. But they do help me out, and I appreciate that a lot. So listen, don't buy cheap tools. I referred somebody to a client years ago who needed a sewer cam. This is long before we started doing sewer cams. They go out there, they shove a camera down a pipe, they say, hey, you have a problem. She's like, great, that's awesome. I knew I had something wrong, where's it at? Don't know, said the inspector. What do you mean, don't know? They have a cheap camera that didn't have a sonde on it. They didn't have a counter on it. They couldn't tell her where the problem was. She had to call another inspector to come out who had better equipment that could locate the actual defect so the defect could be addressed. That was a little embarrassing. Not too long ago, we had an interesting call from a pretty good real estate outfit here in town and said we were the listing company for this inspection, and the inspector said that the bedrooms have wet floors and they don't know what to do about it. They don't know where it's coming from. Can we help? Like, well, where does he think it's coming from? And they had no idea. What makes it really bad is the seller ripped up the wood floors in one of the bedrooms because they thought they might have some kind of plumbing leak in the slab, and come to find out there was nothing there. So as he's telling me the story, he says, what can you do? And I'm like, well, this is a pretty simple process. We follow an SOP. All right, we have an interview. We use the infrared. We know building science. We have an SOP that we follow, and some things you can start throwing away, you know, the process of elimination. And we narrowed it down to just one thing, and it was pretty easy. They were pretty impressed. And as the inspector's telling me the story, he's moisture mapping on the floor with his moisture meter, and the seller says, wait a minute, let me see that. And he showed him the moisture meter, and he says, well, the last guy that was here used a $25 moisture meter. He looked it up on Google. He actually Googled it, the seller did. And I says, so Ron, what did the seller say when he Googled your moisture meter? Ron says, well, he found out I had a $600 moisture meter. That's right. That was like instant credibility in front of the real estate agents and the seller and a lot of people. That helped a lot. Not long after that happened, Inspector Pro, you know that they send out, many of you know that they send out newsletters, and they talked about don't buy cheap tools. There was an inspector there, I wish I would have written his name down, I apologize, told a similar story that I just told you about a guy using cheap electrical testing equipment that were given false readings, and he warned against it. And here's a quote from Inspector Pro, their newsletter. While not one of our most common claims, allegations arising from defective inspection equipment can happen. And when they do, you may be liable for failing to notice or prevent their inaccurate readings. Protect yourself from equipment failure claims by investing in quality tools, maintaining those tools, and understanding how they work, and verifying that they work. Wow, that's one of the largest insurers in the home inspection industry there is. If that doesn't convince you, nothing will. Everybody else, guys, don't buy cheap crap. Seriously. Invest in your future. And don't forget, free shirt, like and subscribe.